Captain Jamin stood on the bridge of his ship, looking out at the empty space where Earth's massive space stations should have been full of life. The huge metal structures were still there, floating in the darkness like giant sleeping beasts. Their lights blinked on and off in perfect patterns, but something was terribly wrong. There were no ships moving between them, no radio chatter filled the communication channels, no signs of the millions of humans who should have been living and working there. "Sir, this doesn't make sense," said Yuna, the young woman who handled all the ship's communications. Her voice shook slightly as she read the numbers on her screen. "All the human buildings are working perfectly. Their computers are running. Their defense systems are active. But there are no people anywhere." Jamin felt a cold fear growing in his chest. He had been sent here by the Galactic Council to check on the humans after they had gone quiet 3 months ago. Everyone expected to find them busy with their usual activities, building new technologies, exploring nearby star systems, or arguing about politics like they always did. Nobody expected to find them completely gone. "Check the colonies, Jamin," ordered his crew. "Maybe they moved to their other planets." Hyan-Wu, the ship's military expert, worked quickly at his station. His fingers danced across the control panels as he scanned one human world after another. Each result was the same. "Sir, I'm checking every human settlement we know about. The planets are all fine, the cities are intact, the farms are still growing food, but there are no humans anywhere." The silence on the bridge was heavy and uncomfortable. Everyone knew that humans were considered a small and unimportant species by most of the galaxy. They had only joined the Galactic Council 50 years ago, and many of the older alien races still saw them as children playing with dangerous toys. But humans were also known for being incredibly stubborn and hard to kill. They didn't just disappear. "About their ships?" asked Hyjin, the science officer. She was always curious about everything, but now her curiosity was mixed with worry. "That's the strange part," Hien-Hua replied. "Their ships are all still in their docks. Military vessels, cargo ships, exploration craft. Everything is exactly where it should be. It's like they all just stopped what they were doing and vanished into thin air." Jamin walked closer to the main viewing window. In the distance, he could see Earth itself, a blue and green marble hanging in space. From here it looked peaceful and beautiful, just like it always had. But the orbital elevators that connected the planet to the space stations were motionless. The constant stream of shuttles that usually moved between Earth and space had stopped completely. "Tsh!" Yuna called out suddenly, "I found something. There's a message waiting for us in the human communication system. It's addressed to any alien visitors who might come here." "Play it," Jamin ordered. The main screen flickered to life, and the image of a middle-aged human woman appeared. She had short black hair and kind eyes, but her face looked very tired and sad. Behind her, Jamin could see what looked like a busy laboratory with computers and strange equipment. "My name is Dr. Saoyoung Park," the woman began. "I am speaking to you from the Luna Research Center. If you are hearing this message, it means that you have discovered our absence. Please do not be alarmed. We have not been destroyed or captured. We have made a choice." The woman paused and looked directly at the camera as if she could see through the screen to the aliens who would eventually watch her message. "For the past 5 years, we have tried to warn your governments about what is coming. We sent detailed reports to every major species in the galaxy. We begged for meetings with your scientists and leaders. We offered to share our research freely, but we were ignored. We were told that we were too young and too inexperienced to understand the universe as well as the older races." Dr. Park's voice remained calm, but Jamin could hear the pain hidden beneath her words. "We were not offended by your dismissal," she continued. "We understood that trust must be earned. But we could not wait any longer for that trust to develop. The threat we discovered does not care about politics or pride. It does not slow down to wait for committees to make decisions. So we have chosen to act alone." The image flickered slightly, and Dr. Park glanced at something off camera before looking back. "We are sorry that we could not convince you to listen. We are sorry that we were not able to explain our findings in a way that you could accept. But we are not sorry for the choice we have made. When the time comes, you will understand. Our last answer is our gift to you and to all life in the galaxy. The message ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in complete silence. Jamin stared at the blank screen, his mind racing. What threat could be so terrible that an entire species would choose to disappear rather than face it? What kind of answer required such a drastic sacrifice? And most importantly, what did the humans know that the rest of the galaxy had missed? The empty space stations continued their silent dance around Earth, keeping their secrets while the galaxy remained unaware of what was coming. 3 days after finding the empty human settlements, Jamin's team finally got permission to board the Lunar Research Center, where Dr. Park had made her final message. The massive facility orbited Earth's moon like a silver wheel, its corridors still lit and its air still clean and breathable. But walking through its halls felt like exploring a tomb. Hyjin led the way with her scanning equipment, checking every room for clues about what had happened to the humans. Her footsteps echoed strangely in the empty corridors. "Captain, you need to see this," she called out from somewhere deep inside the research center. Jamin and his team followed her voice until they reached a huge circular room filled with the most advanced computers they had ever seen.
Machines
hummed quietly, their screens showing millions of numbers and symbols that moved and changed too fast for anyone to read. The air itself seemed to vibrate with the power of all the calculations happening around them. "These computers are still working," Hyjin explained, her voice filled with amazement. "They're processing something incredibly complex. Something the humans called the inevitability equation." Taeho, the team's engineer, had found another computer terminal on the other side of the room. "Captain, I'm reading through their files. The humans weren't just doing normal research here. They were trying to solve a problem that involved the entire galaxy." "What kind of problem?" Jamin asked. "Something about quantum mechanics and space-time," Taeho replied, though he looked confused by his own words. "The files say they discovered a pattern in the way reality itself behaves. They found something that scared them enough to work on it non-stop for 5 years." Yuna had been quiet since they entered the room, but now she spoke up from a communications console. "Sir, I found their message logs. The humans really did try to contact everyone. They sent warnings to the Galactic Council, to the military, commanders, 2 university scientists, even 2 individual planet governors." She pulled up a long list of names and dates on her screen. "They tried everything. Official reports, personal letters, emergency broadcasts, even messages sent through merchants and traders. They contacted over 300 different alien leaders and organizations." Jamin felt a growing sense of shame as he realized the truth. "We ignored them completely, didn't we?" "Worse than that," Yuna said sadly. "Some of the reply messages are still here. Most people just deleted their warnings without reading them. A few sent back angry responses telling them to stop bothering their superiors. One council member even filed a complaint saying the humans were being annoying." The weight of that discovery settled on the team like a heavy blanket. While they had been dismissing the humans as unimportant, those same humans had been desperately trying to warn everyone about some kind of danger. Hyjin had been studying the main computer display, trying to understand what the humans had discovered. "These calculations are incredible," she said. "They're tracking quantum fluctuations across the entire galaxy with mathematical precision that our best computers can't match." "But what does it mean?" Jamin asked. "I'm not sure yet," Hyjin admitted, "but whatever they found, it's still happening. The computers are still monitoring it, still calculating its progress. And according to these numbers, whatever they were worried about is getting closer." Taeho suddenly straightened up at his terminal, his face pale. "Captain, I found something else. The humans weren't just studying this problem, they were trying to solve it." They called their solution the last answer. "What kind of solution?" Jamin asked. "The files are encrypted, but I can see references to something called consciousness transfer and quantum state preservation. They were working on a way to change the fundamental nature of how life exists." The room fell silent, except for the humming of the computers. Everyone was beginning to understand that they were not just investigating a disappearance. They were standing in the middle of humanity's final desperate attempt to save everyone in the galaxy from something terrible. Yuna's communication console suddenly came alive with urgent messages. "Sir, I'm receiving emergency signals from the Outer Rim colonies. They're reporting strange phenomena. Stars are flickering. Space itself seems to be ... breaking somehow. Jameen felt his stomach drop. How far away? The signals are coming from systems that are 6 months away at maximum. Speed, Yuna replied. But Captain, the distortions they're describing match some of the patterns in the human calculations. Hyjin looked up from her analysis with fear in her eyes. If the humans were right about this pattern, if they really discovered something that threatens the entire galaxy, then we're already too late to stop it. The truth was becoming clear, and it was more frightening than anything they had imagined. The humans had not disappeared because they gave up. They had not run away to hide from danger. They had discovered something so terrible that they had chosen to sacrifice themselves to find a solution. We need to understand what they discovered, Jamin said firmly. And we need to understand what they meant by the last answer. If there's even a chance that they found a way to save everyone, we have to figure out how to use it. The empty research center continued its silent work, processing calculations that might hold the key to survival for every living thing in the galaxy. But time was running out, and somewhere in the outer darkness, the thing that had driven humanity to desperation was steadily approaching. Yuna had been working for hours trying to break through the security on Dr. Park's personal research files. Her fingers were cramped from typing, and her eyes burned from staring at the screen, but she refused to give up. Finally, just as Jamin was about to order everyone to take a rest, she let out a small cry of success. I got it, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I cracked the encryption on the final research logs. This is from Dr. Donghyun Kim, their leading quantum physicist. The main screen filled with the image of a thin, tired-looking man, with messy hair and thick glasses. Behind him, the walls were covered with complex diagrams and equations that hurt to look at for too long. If you are watching this, Dr. Kim began, then you have discovered the truth we tried so hard to share. The universe is dying, but not in the way anyone expected. Jameen felt his heart skip a beat. Play it from the beginning, he ordered. Dr. Kim's recorded image started over. My name is Dr. Donghyun Kim. I have been studying quantum mechanics for 30 years, and I have discovered something that changes everything we know about reality itself. The scientist touched something off screen, and the wall behind him lit up with a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. But this wasn't like any map they had ever seen. Instead of showing stars and planets, it showed the invisible structure that held everything together. Space and time are not empty, Dr. Kim explained. They are made of something called quantum foam, tiny particles that pop into existence and disappear again trillions of times per second. This foam is what allows matter and energy to exist. It's the foundation that holds reality together. Hyjin was frantically taking notes, trying to follow the explanation. This is incredible, she whispered. They discovered something about the basic structure of the universe. On the screen, Dr. Kim continued his explanation. For billions of years, the universe has been stable because the quantum foam could repair itself faster than it was damaged. But we have reached a critical point. The accumulated effects of star formation, black hole activity, and faster-than-light travel have pushed the quantum foam beyond its ability to heal. The holographic map began to show a slowly expanding sphere of darkness spreading across the galaxy. But as they watched more carefully, they realized it wasn't darkness at all. It was nothingness, a complete absence of the basic forces that made existence possible. What you are seeing, Dr. Kim said, is a cascade failure in the quantum substrate of space-time itself. It started at the galaxy's edge 18 months ago. It's not an invasion or an attack, simply the universe reaching a point where it can no longer support the weight of reality. Teho stood up so quickly that his chair fell over. That's impossible. Our scientists would have detected something like this. That's what we thought too, Dr. Kim's image replied as if he could hear the engineer's protest. But the cascade failure only becomes visible when it's too late to stop. By the time conventional sensors can detect it, the quantum foam has already begun to collapse. The recorded scientist looked directly at the camera with exhausted eyes. We detected it only because we were studying quantum mechanics from a completely different angle. We were looking for ways to improve our faster-than-light travel, when we discovered the pattern hidden in what everyone else thought was random. Quantum noise. Yuna had gone completely pale. Captain, according to these calculations, the cascade failure will reach the middle systems in 4 months. Core worlds have maybe 6 months before. She couldn't finish the sentence. Implications were too terrible to speak aloud. Dr. Kim Jamin said to the screen, even though he knew the man couldn't hear him. What happens when it reaches us? As if answering his question, the recorded scientist continued. When the cascade reaches a star system, reality simply stops. Existing there is not destruction that would leave debris and energy. This is complete erasure. The atoms forget how to hold together. The forces that bind matter simply cease to function. The holographic map updated to show the cascade's predicted path. It would sweep across the galaxy like a wave, leaving absolute nothingness in its wake. No survivors, no ruins, no trace that billions of civilizations had ever existed. But we didn't give up, Dr. Kim said, and for the first time, there was hope in his voice. We couldn't stop the cascade, but we found a way to answer it. We call it the last answer, and it requires a sacrifice that no single species could make alone. The screen flickered and changed to show Dr. Park again, but this time, she was standing. In a different laboratory surrounded by strange glowing equipment. The cascade cannot be stopped, she said, but it can be transformed. We have found a way to preserve consciousness itself by converting it into a form of organized energy that can exist within the new quantum state that emerges after the cascade passes. Jamin felt like the floor was falling away beneath his feet. They're talking about converting living beings into energy. Not just energy, Haijin said, reading from her notes. Organized quantum energy that maintains consciousness and memory. They found a way to let life survive the end of reality itself. Dr. Park's image smiled sadly. We have tested this process on ourselves. We are no longer human in the way you understand, but we are still alive, still thinking, still caring about the future of all life in the galaxy. The revelation hit the team like a physical blow. The humans hadn't disappeared. They had transformed themselves into something that could survive the impossible. And now they were offering that same transformation to everyone else. Dr. Park's holographic image continued speaking, but now her voice carried a strange quality as if it was coming from very far away. We know this is difficult to understand. We know it sounds like death to you, but we promise you that consciousness survives. Memory survives. The things that make you who you are will continue to exist, just in a new form. Jamin stared at the screen, trying to process what he was hearing. How is that possible? How can someone be alive without a body? As if she could hear his question. Dr. Park's image smiled gently. Think of it like this. Your thoughts and memories are not made of flesh and bone. They are patterns of electrical activity in your brain. We have found a way to preserve those patterns in quantum energy instead of biological tissue. Tejo was frantically working at his computer, trying to understand the technical details. Captain, I'm reading through their conversion process. It's incredibly complex. Timing has to be perfect, and it requires the willing participation of the subject. If someone fights against it, or if the process is rushed, the consciousness simply dissolves. That's why we couldn't share this. Technology immediately, Dr. Park explained. One mistake, an entire species could be lost forever. We needed to test it thoroughly and prepare everything perfectly. Yuna suddenly looked up from her communication console with alarm. Sir, I'm receiving emergency broadcasts from across the galaxy. The cascade failure is accelerating. Systems that should have had months of time are going dark now. The main screen split to show incoming messages from dozens of different worlds. Panic was spreading as civilizations that had ignored humanity's warnings were now seeing the impossible with their own eyes. Stars were simply vanishing from the sky. Entire regions of space were becoming empty voids where nothing could exist. The Galactic Council is in emergency session, Yuna reported. They're demanding answers about the phenomenon. They're asking if anyone has solutions. Hanwu, who had been quiet during most of the discovery, finally spoke up. It's too late for them to find their own solution, isn't it? Even if they believed us now, even if they started working on this problem today, they don't have enough time. Jean nodded grimly. According to the human calculations, developing this conversion technology took them 5 years of intensive research. The cascade will reach the core worlds in less than 6 months. Dr. Park's image seemed to sense their despair. We knew this would happen. We knew that by the time others could see the cascade, it would be too late for them to develop their own answer. That's why we prepared everything in advance. The holographic display changed to show a map of the galaxy. But this time, it was marked with thousands of glowing points scattered across hundreds of star systems. We didn't abandon our colonies and space stations, Dr. Park continued. We converted them into processing centers. Every major human settlement now contains the equipment necessary to safely transform consciousness into quantum energy. We have built enough facilities to handle every sentient being in the galaxy. Jameen felt a mixture of amazement and shame. Prepared to save everyone. Even after we ignored them, even after we treated them like they didn't matter, they still tried to save us all. But there's something else, Tejo said, his voice filled with wonder. I'm detecting energy signatures from all the human facilities. They're not empty. They're full of converted human consciousness. The humans are still there, just in a different form. The implications slowly became clear. Humanity had not run away or hidden from the crisis. They had transformed themselves into the very foundation of the solution. They had become the guides and guardians who would help other species through the conversion process. We are still here, Dr. Park said, as if she could hear their thoughts. We are still watching, still caring, still hoping. When your people are ready to make the choice, we will be there to help you through the transformation. Across the galaxy, the first major civilization encountered the cascade failure. The proud Zenthari Empire, which had ruled 1,000 worlds for 10,000 years, simply ceased to exist in the span of a few hours. Their desperate final messages filled the communication channels as their reality collapsed around them. Sir Yuna reported with a shaking voice, "The cascade is moving faster than the human predictions. It's adapting, learning, becoming more efficient at unmaking reality." Hyunwoo pulled up tactical displays showing the cascade's new path. This rate, it will reach the middle systems in 2 months, not 4. The core worlds have maybe 3 months. We need to make a choice, Jameen said quietly. We can try to run, knowing that there's nowhere to hide. We can try to fight, knowing that there's nothing to fight against. Or we can trust the humans and accept their gift. The weight of the decision was crushing. How do you choose to give up everything you are for the chance to become something you don't understand? How do you trust a species that you had dismissed and ignored? But as more emergency signals flooded in from across the galaxy, as more civilizations faced the unstoppable wave of nothingness, the choice became clearer. The humans had offered their last answer freely, without asking for payment or apologies. They had become something beyond individual existence to save everyone who had refused to listen to them. The cascade continued its relentless advance. But now there was hope. Scattered across the galaxy, the converted consciousness of humanity waited patiently to guide other species through the transformation that would allow life to continue beyond the end of reality itself. The cascade failure reached the outer colonies faster than anyone had predicted. Jamin watched from the bridge as entire star systems simply stopped existing on his screens. One moment they were there, glowing points of light representing billions of lives, and the next moment there was nothing but empty space where they had been. Captain Yuna called out, her voice tight with fear. The cascade will reach us in 48 hours. We need to make a decision now. All across the galaxy, the conversion facilities that humanity had built began to activate. The empty human colonies suddenly filled with a soft, warm light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. And then, impossibly, the voices of the converted. Humans began to speak across every communication channel. "We are here," came the collective voice of humanity, speaking through thousands of facilities at once. "We are ready to guide you through the transformation. You do not have to face this alone." Jameen had never heard anything like it. It wasn't one voice or many voices. It was something entirely new. The individual humans had become part of something larger while still maintaining their own personalities and memories. Dr. Park's voice was still recognizable within the collective, as was Dr. Kim's, but they were now part of a greater whole. Do we know this will work? Ho Yanwu asked, speaking directly to the warm light that now filled their screens. How do we know we won't just die? You don't, came the honest reply. This requires faith, but consider the alternative. The cascade offers certain extinction. We offer uncertain survival. Which choice honors the life you have lived? Across the galaxy, different species were making different choices. Some, like the warrior clans of the Rough Nebula, chose to fight. The cascade with weapons and shields, even knowing it was impossible. Others, like the ancient philosophers of the Crystal Worlds, chose to face extinction with dignity rather than change their fundamental nature. But many others were making the same choice that Jamin's crew was considering. The conversion facilities were filling with beings from hundreds of different species, all guided by the patient voices of transformed humanity. I'll go first, Haiyan Wu said suddenly. If this is our only chance, someone needs to take the risk. No, Jamin replied firmly. We go together. If we're going to trust the humans, we trust them completely. The nearest conversion facility was on the abandoned human colony of New Sol, only 6 hours away at maximum speed. As they traveled toward it, they could see the cascade approaching behind them, a wall of absolute nothingness that stretched across the entire visible universe. When they arrived at New Sol, the facility was already active. The buildings glowed with soft, welcoming light, and the air itself seemed to hum with gentle energy. As they walked through the corridors, they could feel the presence of the converted humans around them, offering comfort and guidance. Welcome, said a familiar voice, and Dr. Park's image appeared before them, but now she seemed to be made of light rather than flesh. We know this is frightening. We were frightened too. But we promise you that what you are about to become is not an ending. It is a beginning. The conversion chamber was surprisingly simple, just a comfortable room with soft lighting and gentle music. There were no frightening machines or complex procedures. The humans had designed it to be as peaceful as possible. The process is easy, Dr. Park explained. You simply lie down and let go. You will guide your consciousness through the transformation. You will feel yourself changing, but you will still be you. Your memories, your personality, your love for each other, all of that will remain. One by one, Jamin's crew entered the conversion chambers. Haijin went first, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. As the soft light surrounded her, her body began to fade, but her voice remained strong. It's incredible, she said. I can feel myself expanding, becoming part of something larger, but I'm still me. Taeho followed, then Yuna, then Hyeonwoo. Each transformation was unique, but the result was the same. Their consciousness was preserved and enhanced, freed from the limitations of physical form. Finally, it was Jamin's turn. As he lay down in the chamber, he could feel the cascade approaching. Through the facility's sensors, he could see the wave of nothingness only minutes away from reaching them. Are you ready? Dr. Park asked gently. Yes, Jamin replied. And he meant it. Closed his eyes and felt the warm light surrounding him, lifting him, changing him. His body dissolved, but his thoughts remained clear. His memories stayed intact. He was still himself, but he was also something more. The cascade struck New Sol just as the transformation completed. The wave of nothingness swept over the facility, erasing matter and energy, destroying the very fabric of space-time itself. But the converted consciousness of Jamin and his crew, protected by humanity's quantum preservation technology, survived the impossible. As the cascade finished its sweep across the galaxy, something wonderful happened. The quantum energy patterns that humanity had become began to reform reality itself, not as it had been before, but as something new and better. The preserved consciousness of billions of beings found themselves existing in a universe where thought and emotion were as real as matter had once been. Jamin found himself standing in a place that looked like New Sol. It was somehow more real, more vivid than anything he had ever experienced. Around him were his crew, looking exactly as they had before, but glowing with inner light. And everywhere the grateful voices of humanity welcomed them to their new existence. Thank you, Jamin, said to Dr. Park, who smiled with the warmth of eternal hope. Thank you for saving us all." And in that new reality where consciousness itself had become the foundation of existence, life continued in forms more wonderful than anyone had ever imagined possible.